It's safe to say few people today could stomach the most intense sports of the ancient world. Although these days we have our fair share of intense sports, in the past, people really didn't hold back. As a matter of fact, many of the sports we have today find their roots somewhere on this list. Of course, these days, people don't generally lose their life playing soccer, and most of these events would be banned in a heartbeat, so don't try these at home. Nonetheless, it's good to know your history. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are the 25 most intense sports of the ancient world. #25. Pankration. While today we have MMA, the Greeks had something known as pankration. The goal of this bloody one-on-one anything-goes fist fight was to bring your opponent as close to death without actually killing them. If you did happen to accidentally kill them, then you would automatically forfeit the match, and the dead fighter was instantly declared the victor. 24. Fishermans Joust. Imagine two groups of guys each hopping into their boats, rowing out into the Nile, and proceeding to beat the crap out of each other with their oars. Like the Roman Gladiatorial Games, this often took place in front of the pharaoh, and often the bloody mess would entice crocodiles and hippos to enter the fray. 23. Vinicio. It's hard to say whether this ancient death match was worse for the slaves or the animals recruited to fight them. In fact, the Romans were so intrigued with pitting humans against animals that on the inauguration of the Colosseum, over 9,000 beasts were killed. Very often, however, the humans met a similar fate. 22. Chariot Races. Although NASCAR certainly has its dangers, chariot racing was little more than a death match with a finish line. In fact, it was almost impossible to win without being seriously injured, and life expectancy of most racers was incredibly low. 21. Guney stick fighting. One of the few sports on this list that's actually still practiced today, the name of this game just about sums things up. The Zulus would essentially beat the crap out of each other with sticks. Although people seldom died, the participants would often walk away with numerous scars that they would wear like badges of honor. 20. Gladiatorial Games. If you've seen Gladiator, then you know how bloodthirsty the crowd in the Colosseum could be. Often, the organizers of these games would come up with new and unusual ways for the gladiators to kill themselves, one of which we'll see in a moment. 19. Poppa Holua. It seems as though Hawaii has always been known for surfing. While today it mostly involves waves, in the past, ancient Hawaiians used mountains. In fact, the name of this pastime means slide into the pit. For thousands of years, the islanders would essentially surf down the side of volcanoes. However, the sport was stopped for being dangerous. Recently, there have been several attempts to revive it. 18. Makea. Once again taking place in the Colosseum, the name of this event roughly translates to naval warfare. The Romans would fill the arena with water, add a bunch of warships, and recreate famous naval battles. It's been said that the spectacle was so violent that by the end of it, the unsunken ships seemed as though they had been painted red. 17. Epis Kyros. Although modern soccer has plenty of shin kicking and ankle twisting, its ancient Greek predecessor was just downright brutal. In fact, sources indicate that even spectators would often emerge with broken bones and injuries. 16. Shin Kicking. Played by Native Americans, this game wasn't nearly as violent as the others, although losers were sometimes known to commit suicide. The game itself was relatively simple and involved rolling a large stone across the ground as participants threw spears at it. 15. Jousting. Although there wasn't a ridiculously high mortality rate, knocking your opponent off his horse using a 10-foot pole definitely qualifies as hardcore. 14. Cockfighting. One of the oldest blood sports, any activity that involves pitting animals against one another in the world, cockfighting typically meant having two specially bred birds fight one another with specially designed barbs on their feet. 13. Pillo de Pecha. What was essentially field hockey for pyromaniacs, this ancient Mesoamerican game used a flaming puck. Recently, it's actually started to make a comeback, as the Mexican government is pushing to revive its ancient pastimes.
12.
Dogfighting. Like cockfighting, dogfighting dates back thousands of years and has roots in ancient Rome as well as China. These days, however, it's illegal in most developed countries.
11.
Shin Kicking. Consisting of two people kicking each other in the shins, this simple sport has been practiced in England for hundreds of years. Although it's not lethal, having someone repeatedly bash you in your shins can definitely be considered hardcore.
10.
Camel Jumping. Practiced in antiquity by men of the Zaraniq tribe in Yemen, this ancient sport has just recently started making a comeback, with participants trying to jump over as many camels as they possibly can.
9.
Pato. The official sport of Argentina, pato was originally played with a live duck, although after many government interventions, participants now use a ball instead. With players on horseback, it's something of a cross between polo and basketball, the objective being to get the ball to its own side. These days, it's not nearly as violent as it used to be.
8.
Kabaddi. If you can imagine trying to wrestle 7 people while holding your breath, then you can get a feel for what Kabaddi is all about. As one of the oldest sports in southern Asia, Kabaddi is essentially a giant wrestling match between two teams. The twist, however, is that only one member of each team can cross into the other team's territory at a time, and while doing so, he or she must refrain from breathing.
7.
Basque pelota. Closely related to tennis, this very old game has sometimes been referred to as the fastest sport in the world. Ball speeds could reach up to 200 miles an hour.
6.
Bullfighting. One of the few blood sports that are still actively sanctioned by modern Western governments, this man vs. beast showdown can trace its roots all the way back to ancient Rome.
5.
Muay Thai. Although today it's practiced around the world, this lethal martial art was born on the ancient battlefields of what is today known as Thailand. Commonly referred to as the art of the 8 limbs, practitioners use not just their feet and hands, but their elbows and knees as well.
4.
Buzkashi. The national sport of Afghanistan, this game involves a number of mounted players fighting over the carcass of a headless goat, after which each player tries to pitch it across a goal line.
3.
Spartan Games. Spartans hated sports. They thought sports were for sissies. In fact, Tyrtaeus, the great Spartan war poet, wrote about how unimpressive athletic achievement was. According to him, a man is not good in warfare unless he dares look upon bloody slaughter. To a Spartan, if you aren't good in warfare, then you aren't worth the air you breathe. For this reason, most of the Spartan competitions were mind-bogglingly brutal.
2.
Viking skin pulling. Essentially one big game of tug-of-war, the Vikings preferred using animal skin over rope and playing over a huge pit of fire. Usually the winners would walk away with the spoils of the town they had just plundered, which often included rape rights to the women. As you may have guessed, the losers became intimately acquainted with the fire pit.
1.
Ulama. Although this sport is still popular in parts of Central America, the original game created by the Mayans is hands down probably the most insane sport in all of human history. Something like basketball, the players would bounce the balls off their hips and attempt to get the ball through a hoop attached to the wall. The crazy part was that often the balls were constructed out of human skulls. And in case you were wondering where they got the skulls from, stick around to the end of the match. Let's just say the losers make a donation. So, which of these sports would you participate in, if you had to? Let us know in the comments below, or tweet your answer to us at List25.
Enjoying our lists? Be sure to click that subscribe button on the bottom right and the notification bell so you don't miss out on new ones every Monday through Friday. Share them with friends and help us consistently conciliate curiosity. And if you want even more lists, check out these videos here, or just head to our website at list25.com.